Welcome to Mother's Narrative Network. Before we begin, please like and subscribe for more daily uploads. Hope you enjoy today's video. Ghost stories. Someone mentioned on another thread that it would be good to start a ghost story thread. So I thought I'd give it a go. Have you ever seen a ghost or a mysterious person? I've never seen one, but my mum says that she has seen an old woman in her room, dressed in old clothes. After a few minutes, she just vanished. Haven't seen one, but in a hotel we were in, had a girl running up and down above us and screaming in the middle of the night. Realized in the morning that we were on the top floor and there was no loft. Whether this was a dream or not I couldn't tell you, and I can't ask my mum and dad as they are both passed. I remember at about 6 years old getting into my parents' bed in the middle of the night and getting in between them. Anyway, when I woke up my mum wasn't there, it was just my dad. I happened to turn around and saw another one of my dad, and I said, "Daddy, there's a man in the bed with the same face as you." My dad replied in flat, somber and almost resigned voice, "Oh, ignore him, he'll go away in a minute." I then remember my mum, who was very we would often say, "Do you remember when you saw another one of your dad?" However, I'm inclined to think that part was definitely a false memory, because my mum would not have wanted another mention of something so creepy. Plus, if I had have told her there was another one of my dad in the house, she would have left the country. I don't know about town. Our house is 100+ years old. Had a few freaky encounters, but this was the worst. It was Christmas night, the early hours of Boxing Day 2020, just after midnight. I was alone downstairs watching a bit of telly, my husband, my 13-month-old daughter and 6-year-old son all upstairs in their beds. I eventually decided to go up myself. As you walk up our stairs, my daughter's room is immediately at the top on the right. As I made my way up, I could distinctly hear my husband in her room, shushing her back to sleep. She'd recently had her MMR jab, and had been sleeping terribly. My husband had a brilliant knack of whispering sh, shhhhhh over and over while rubbing her back. I crept past her room feeling terrible that she'd woken, and I hadn't heard her, and not wanting to undo his good work by disturbing her. As I opened our bedroom door, I was surprised to find my husband snoring away in a deep sleep in our bed. I went into her room, the shushing sound stopped, I checked on her and she too was sound asleep. Way too creepy, and not the first time I'd heard auditory phenomena I couldn't explain. For the record, I hadn't been drinking, because I was still BF at this time. Following night, my son starts screaming in the early hours. Not unusual, as he would sometimes still wet the bed. I go into him and he says, "Mom, you woke me up and you left before I'd got back to sleep." That was you, wasn't it? The black figure by my bed. So I reassured him that I'd been in to make sure his duvet was straight, and I sat next to him while he fell asleep. Except I hadn't been into him at all. Next morning I was full of rage that things that only I had previously heard were potentially starting to affect the children. I do appreciate he could have had a bad dream, but off the back of the night before it freaked me out. The house, many years ago, 1940s, used to belong to a primary school teacher, who apparently loved children, according to an elderly neighbor, so it may well have been well-meaning. However, while my husband was out with the children, I went into both bedrooms and shouted to whoever it might have been, "Thanks, but no thanks," and later bought a couple of protection crystals to place outside their bedrooms out of desperation. I've heard other things in the house since, but thankfully the children haven't. Oh, I forgot about the one in our house. Ours is over 100 years old too, and one night soon after we moved in we were in bed and I just had this cold feeling of dread come over me, and I just knew someone from a previous time was in the house, which makes no sense, because I'm not big on woo stuff, but I just knew. Then in the middle of the night I woke up to my husband freaking out, because he'd seen a man looming over him. Was so freaky. We actually did similar, and prayed the man away, and he hasn't been back since. We did find some of his belongings from WW1 in the loft though. The first thing that popped into my mind I decided not to post, then I read the comments in the thread so far and now I have to, because it's another duplicate dad one, and now I'm wondering if it's a thing. I was primary school age, and had woken up in the middle of the night, and couldn't get back to sleep as I was feeling really weird. These days I'd call it uneasy, but back then I just remember I feel weird. After laying awake a while, I heard my dad say Ajax. Ajax? I replied, yes. Come on, it's time for school, outside my bedroom door. The voice was my dad's and was specifically coming from the left of my bedroom door towards kitchen, bungalow. It wasn't a whisper, it was his normal speaking voice, maybe a bit louder than. I was very confused, as it absolutely wasn't time for school. I didn't reply again, being very confused, and didn't move a muscle for a while because it was too strange. Eventually got out of bed, looked out my bedroom door, no dad to be seen. Went to parents' bedroom, to the right, end of the hallway, opened door and peeked in, dad was sound asleep. I remember wondering if he had sleepwalked, but he wasn't a sleepwalker ever, doubt he would have had time to get back to his bedroom and lay down before I saw him, and I absolutely would have heard him walking down the hallway, and into his bedroom especially as the door was closed anyway. Dead weird and still can't explain it. I assume if I have answered the call I'd have been spirited away by Ghost Dad. There is a phenomena about this. It says that bad spirits will pretend to be people that you know, and they will imitate their voice. You see loads of stories online of people saying that they heard their girlfriend call them, but they knew that their girlfriend wasn't in the house. At primary school, one of my friends would often tell us stories about the ghost in her house. How one day her family arrived home to hear water running in the bath. Went upstairs to find both taps on. They turned the taps off, but not long after they arrived home to hear water, and this time the taps themselves were gone. Wet handprints would appear on the wall. Stuff was always disappearing or being moved about. She was an intelligent, shy, quiet girl and not given to boasting or making things up, so her stories definitely chilled us. I only went to her home once and the hallway and stairs were crammed with vintage clocks. Her dad collected them and they were all ticking and chiming away. I asked to use the loo and was directed to the bathroom upstairs. Halfway up the stairs the air turned icy cold and I suddenly felt scared stiff. Used the loo as quickly as I could and raced back to the living room. I never went back, but I always believed her tales after that. I stayed at the Red Lion in Colchester with my then 2-year-old. It's apparently one of the most haunted hotels in the UK, and the room we were in was certainly atmospheric, very old with beams, and it even had part of the ancient wall made with straw and mud behind a pane of glass. Anyway, the night passed without incident, although I did hear my boy stir and mumble a few times from the travel cot. When he woke for the morning he stood up, pointed at the chair next to the cot and said, "Oh. Lady gone. The dad thing. You guys keep reminding me of things. Am I just a magnet for this stuff?" When I was younger my dad came into my room and stood over me in the middle of the night. Because I was a kid I thought he was just checking on me, so I mumbled at him and then went to sleep. In the morning I asked him about it, and he said he didn't come in. Also from that night onwards my favorite toy had disappeared off the face of the earth, which is very weird. Oh, I remember something scary that happened to me. I was 16, and I was staying in a friend's house. They lived really far out in the country. It was a really big, really old house. I was sleeping on the couch downstairs. Everyone else was upstairs. I woke up in the middle of the night, with a really weird feeling. I sat up. Behind the couch was a really big window. It was huge. So I was sitting, facing into the room. I looked at my watch. It was 3 a.m. Just when I sat up, right behind where my head was, there was a knock on the window. 3 loud knocks. I was so scared. I turned the light on and sat in a different chair until morning. Next morning I asked if any of them had gotten up in the middle of the night. None of them had. My first house. As soon as I viewed it, my blood ran cold and I had such an uneasy feeling, especially on the upstairs landing. The house was otherwise perfect and a renovation project, so I put it down to just needing some work done. Except I renovated it top to bottom and the feeling didn't go away. It was just me and my daughter living in the house. It was beautifully done, but I would feel the most awful sense of dread come over me as soon as I stepped into the house. People would feel like they were being watched, and then I started to see shadows of figures upstairs. I can't really describe how the house felt, but once the figures started to become more prominent, we moved. I downsized and moved into another house that needed work, just so I could move ASAP. That house felt so light and freeing from the second I walked into it that I knew it was the right choice to move. Living abroad, I moved into an older apartment. It has 2 floors. Floorboards in the whole apartment are creaky, so when someone walks it is very loud. On many occasions, I have heard footsteps clear as day walking across the floor above me. Absolutely undeniably in the bedroom above. We are on the top floor, so there's no chance it's coming from a different apartment, and it's very clearly overhead. I'm not the only person who has witnessed it. It happened when I first viewed the apartment and the estate agent, DP, and I all acknowledged it. My friend has heard it in the middle of the night, when we were sat on the sofa chatting away, came to stay for the first time in a long time, and we were sat up chatting. She literally looked terrified and grabbed my arm, and was so surprised. She said she'd never experienced anything like that so clearly before. The bathroom door has this weird, frosted glass panel in it. They are common here. I've seen, clear as day, someone moving in the bathroom. I nearly had a nervous breakdown, as it was so clear, and looked like someone dressed in black passing the window. I flung open the door and of course, nobody there. The weird thing is, this apartment has the warmest, safest, and most welcoming feel to it. I've never felt anything like it. As soon as I entered the apartment to view it, I could feel this wonderful, warm presence. Like I knew that the previous owner was still here, and I knew that they were not a threat, but a positive presence. I know that sounds absolutely mad. My children have said, by themselves, things that indicate that they feel similar. I've not discussed it with them, because I didn't want to scare them, but they've brought it up on their own. We all feel that the apartment has the vibe of an elderly, kindly man and woman who lived here before and isn't ready to move on yet. Weirdly, we don't want them to leave and find their presence comforting. My friend suggested saging the apartment, but I don't want to, in case it works and I make this kindly presence leave before they are ready to. Poltergeist activity in every house I've lived in. Siblings saw a man, but I only had noises and things flying across my path. One thing hit me very hard in the face. Current house, I hear someone walking in circles in my youngest child's room. Nowhere else. When I'm alone. I had to leave DS11 at home other day for about 10 minutes, and he said he was scared. Footsteps above him. Things in my house always disappear, never to be seen again. Keys, pictures DC have drawn, toys. There is no logical explanation for it. Oh, one time, I was in an office by myself. Something grabbed the back of my chair on wheels and pulled me across the room. My mum lives in an old house alone. She tells me that she often sees people around that just disappear. She sees something every couple of weeks. An old woman, an old man, a young woman. She's old but she's very mentally sharp, so it's not the onside of dementia or anything. I've stayed there and I've never seen anything. I wonder if older people are better able to see spirits. I read before somewhere that young children and older people are better able to see spirits, as they are nearer to the spiritual realm in age. While people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s are more rooted in the physical world. I've had a few experiences I can't explain, all in my childhood home, which was modern on a nice and very standard housing estate. First, I was reading in bed as a teen and the lamp went out. I shared a room with my sister. She was there too. We'd discussed a weird vibe, so with false confidence, I shouted at the ghost to turn the light back on. It did so instantly. Another time, same room, I woke in the night and was definitely tucked into bed, duvet tucked in the length of body, both sides, and then the weight of the person sat on the bed next to me. I told Mum in the morning and she just matter of fact said, "Oh, that'll be your great nan, she does that to me too." In hospital having my eldest, I fell asleep sat in bed, holding the baby, and a voice clearly shouted, "NC," and woke me with a start. There was no one there, but I popped baby in his cot and went back to sleep. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. Before you go, please like, comment, and subscribe for more daily uploads.